Hello, and welcome to Mitchell Consulting's webinar series for our Mitchell University. Today we're going to be working with SAP Business One version 9.0, and we're going to be talking about a new functionality called the Advanced GL Account Determination. This webinar is being recorded. It'll be available on our website, so you can visit us at www.mitchellgroup.com to view this, plus the others in our training series. Let's talk a little bit about the GL Account Determination as it is in the SAP, and then we'll go into the advanced functionality. The GL account determination is a setup that we use to set GL for posting. So for example, when we enter documents, we tell SAP what GL account we want to use for inventory, for sales, for cost of sales, and so on. And we can do that in one of three ways. So before I begin, let's open up an item, and let's see the standard as it is now. And by the way, this new functionality I'm going to show you can be turned on or off. So if you do not want to use the advanced functionality, you can maintain the current functionality. So let's open up an item, and we can see here that we have three ways to set the GL. So what we can do is we can set the GL by warehouse. We can determine the warehouses down here. We can set by item group, which is up here, so you can have different item groups. And you can do it at the item level. If you select item level, you would actually enter the GL accounts here. Again, you would open this information up. So in the form settings, you can see here that you can actually open up the accounts. You don't see the accounts right now because I have the advanced set on, but you would actually set up the accounts here. So what we would do here is, let's cancel this out, and let's go into, let's open up our SAP. Let's go here to close SAP, so I'm just going to reopen it real quick. We seem to be having an issue with our SAP, so let's let me try that again. Let's see here. Apologize for that. That's a little problem with that. See if we can resolve this real quick. Let me go ahead and do a restart. and see what the issue is. Again, I apologize for that, but let me, as I'm redoing this, let me explain what the difference is. Currently, right now, the GL account determination can be set at the warehouse level, the item group level, and the individual level. This was good, but there were some issues with this because I was limited. One of the things in the example I was going to show you today is, for example, a lot of our clients say, well, you know what, I have two types of customers. I have domestic customers and I have foreign customers. What I can do is I can create in the AR, for my control accounts, I can have an AR for domestic and foreign. But the problem is I can never really do that with my revenues and expenses. So what the advanced GL account determination allows you to do is create rules. And within these rules, we can actually go ahead and set that up. And what I'm going to show you today is that functionality where I can go ahead and I can set an advanced rule, and I can set it so I'm going to say, let's look at my customer groups. So I can create a customer group for domestic customers. I can create a customer group for foreign customers. And then what I can do is I can then link the specific GL accounts to that information. Once I have a rule in place, if I meet the rule, it will take those accounts that I determined in the rule. Otherwise, it will use the standard GL accounts that are set up within the GL account determination. When we do turn the option on, you'll notice that, and I'll show you, is that in the warehouses and item groups, we used to have the GL accounts in those systems. So now what we do is we no longer have those in the individual ones, and we have it all set together. So let me just go back in here again. Let's log back in so we can see. So once we do rule, so we're going to use customer groups. So in this case, we can post to all these new advances also have access to changing advanced rules. So let's just give this a minute to come and show you a screen viewed at the warehouse level. Okay. So, and then I'm going to show you once I turn the advance. I already have it turned on, but when you turn them on, it's going to prompt you for what they call a data migration. And what it's going to do, it's basically going to create rules to offset those accounts. So I was using different accounts on my warehouse a rule here. So SAP knows that, well, we're using different revenue accounts for our different items. So what it will do is it will internally create a rule for that, and you'll see some of those rules when I open up the system. Just waiting for my SAP. Again, so what I'm going to do, the rule I'm going to show you is I'm going to create I have a rule created, a simple rule that we're going to do is we're going to use the customer groups. So we're going to be able to post our sales revenues to either the foreign or domestic accounts. And let's open this up. Let's check our services here. We just seem to have a little issue. I'm going to go ahead and check the, sometimes I might have an issue here with the license manager, so I'm just going to go ahead and check this. Let's just make sure we're running. Let's just check our license manager, make sure we're running okay. Restart the license manager. Yeah, not part of the demo, but if you're watching, you can see that sometimes this could happen. We're going to start our license manager. It actually generates and runs the SAP client. Let's try again now, and hopefully we should work. And there we go. So let's go into our OEC computers. Okay, so let's go back now and see this. Just going to wait for the SAP to come up. And what we'll do is we'll go through and we'll continue on. Give it a few minutes to come up. I'm not responding here. It should be good. So what I'm going to show you is the new screens that were entered and the option that's in the system initialization to actually turn this on. So here we go. We're back. We're reversing. We don't want to run any of our transactions today, so let's just cancel these. Okay, so we're back. So let's go into modules here. And we're going to go into what we talked about before. So we're going to go into administration. And the first thing we're going to do is in administration, we're going to go to system initialization. And under the company details, we have some new checkboxes here. Let's open this up. And you can see here under basic initialization, we have down here, enable advanced GL account determination. So when I turn this on, and when you turn it on, it'll prompt you. And basically, you have three options, and you just choose the first one. And what it'll do is it'll migrate the data. So any changes you have. So if you have different GL accounts at the item group levels, it will create a rule for it. So this actually turns it on. So now we have it on. Now when we have it on, you'll notice a difference here. If you saw before in our screens here, you had the item groups had the accounts, and the warehouse had the accounts. So now we're going to see that when we go in, so again, when we go into setup, when we go to inventory, and we go to our item groups, now we do not have that extra tab. We have just this information here in the item group setup. When we go into the warehouse setup, again, we only have that one tab. So with GL account determination, there was actually 3 places we set it up. We actually go into the financials and do the main GL account determination setup, which is here, and as well as the other ones. Now you notice in here we have this new field, the determination criteria. So what happens is now when I open up this GL account determination, you're going to see, again, a new column for the advanced rules. And you can see that I have rules here. So in the example I'm going to go through, I have as my default GL account, I have this sales revenue services. So what I did is I created a rule, and you can see here I have my rules. Okay, I just gave them a code. I put revenue domestic, revenue foreign, and you can see now I can do this with all the accounts. Again, you can see all the different GL accounts. So if I leave this blank, it'll go back to the GL account determination table. But I have all these different accounts, and these are the accounts that you see here. So again, I'm just doing it for the revenue, but you can do for all these other accounts as well. And again, the reason why I'm doing that in this particular demo is because I have my general ledger set up that way for my receivables. So what I do is I have a domestic receivables and a foreign receivables, and I want to track revenue that way. Before I couldn't do that. So now I have the ability of doing that. I can also do it for the discount accounts and all the different accounts here. So what I do is I create rules. And I can set hierarchies on these rules. So if we go here to the determination criteria, this is where we set the hierarchy. You can see that these 3 are automatically turned on. They're active by default. I also activated the business partner group. And again, the reason why these are active by default because of the scenario we talked about. Remember, we can set GL accounts in the standard SAP. We can set GL accounts at the item group level, at the warehouse level, in the individual item code. So these, by default, are going to be grayed out and always turned on. I need these because if I do decide to switch, if I do an upgrade to, say, version 9, and I want to go in and make some changes, and I want to use my advanced, what it will do is SAP will automatically create these rules behind me for these. What I can do is I can set the hierarchy. You notice I have business partner here on top. All right? And again, what I can do is if I highlight that and I move it down, what I'm doing now is I'm looking at item group first, then partner, then business partner group. Okay, so I'm going to move that one back up. And again, I can do it here under ship to countries, ship to states. I can do BP codes and BP types. So I can do all this information. I can make them active, and then I can use them in my hierarchy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have business partner groups as my main hierarchy. So let's just update that. And you can see how we have this. See if I can keep these both open. So if I open up the GL account determination, okay, and I look at my rules, you'll notice that the rule, again, follows this information here. Because you can see here I have business partner. So I have business partner group, then I have item group, then I have item code, and I have warehouse. Again, just like I'm doing here. If I was to activate the ship to country, then I would have the ship to country in that order. So what I'm doing is I'm actually going to go in here and define these rules. And again, I'm looking at this hierarchy. So I want to look first at business partner groups and so on. So I created a simple rule here, and you can see that the rule is shown here. Right here, I have these 2 rules. So let's go in there. And how I do that, if I want to start a rule, I just go to advanced. Okay, you can see some things here, like you can see the R4, the R5, and the R3. And you can see these came over automatically because, again, when I activated my advanced rules, if I had different accounts, let's say in the item groups or the warehouse, it by default would come over. And again, and you can actually make changes here into these, and you can define a rule. I've already defined this one here, so let's look at the rule I defined. Okay, I created a code, so I'm using revenue domestic, and I'm using revenue foreign. And again, I can do a couple things here. I have some options. Again, I still have the general, the warehouse, and the item groups. That was from before, because that can link to the account. Let's open up a GL account. Excuse me, let's open up an item. See where that's coming from. So again, if you could look at the items, you have an additional fields in the item master that allow you to determine that too. And that is now a new field on the general tab. You can see here advanced rule type. So you have general, warehouse, and item group. Similar to what you have here in the inventory data. Because in the inventory data, you had this without the advance. So what we did is we put it here. So again, you can actually go even deeper. So what I can do is, this rule I'm setting up to post by foreign and domestic, I can also do some more advanced features on here as well. So I can set this to be, again, general, just using the general rule, or the warehouse, or the item group. So this, again, allows me further changes, and I can actually update, again, my rules. I can make them even more detailed if I wanted to. So let's go here. So again, we're just using these two as general. Here we picked our business partner groups. And again, you can see all the business partner groups. So again, I'm just using large accounts. So I'm saying, okay, if it's a large account, I want to do something with it. And if it's construction, I'm going to do something else. Again, since I saw that hierarchy, let's open that back up again. Again, you can see the information here. Because I have these active, you'll see, again, and I can also do this here. So what I'm saying here is I'm saying, okay, if the business partner group is large accounts, I can even go further. I can select an item group. Okay, I'm just going to say all item groups. I can select an individual item code. I can choose one item code, so I can do this on the individual level. And again, I can do it for warehouses or all warehouses. So what I've done is I've set this up, and I have some accounts. Again, I can change these accounts. I just left those because I don't have them. But the ones I changed were here. So if you look at my revenue accounts, so you can see here, let's go into the chart of accounts. So you can see I have sales revenue domestic, I have sales revenue foreign, and have a sales revenue service. Now, the sales revenue service is the default that's in the GL account determination table. And then I also added a rule for the domestic and the foreign. And note those accounts here, 411, 412, and 413. Okay, as you see here, my default revenue account is 413. So if the rules don't apply, it's going to roll back into 413. And then what I'm saying is, okay, additional to that, I have this account 411, which is the domestic, and 412, which is the foreign. And I'm using these accounts. Okay, so that's the setup. And again, you can get really creative. I'm just kind of giving you a high overview. You can make these rules really big. You can set hundreds of the things here for all different types. Okay, so let's just see how that works. Okay, we're going to click OK. Let's click OK. Let's just close all this. Okay, so now let's do a sales order or an AR invoice. Let's go here to an AR invoice. So let's select the customer, and let's look at the types. Okay, so again, we have the large accounts. So we're just going to grab Earthshaker. That's a large account, and that's going to be a domestic. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to sell an item. Okay, I'm just going to sell this item, let's say $500, real simple. We're going to add. Okay, so we added that. Let's go back now, look at the effect within the general ledger. So here's what we added. And again, that was a large account. So if we look at the effect in accounting, you can see here that we affected on line 3 the 411 account. So what we did is we hit sales revenue domestic. Because remember, large accounts were set as domestic. All right, let's go to a construction account because we set that for foreign. So let's just tab. And let's take Norm, who's a construction account. Okay, so again here we're going to do an AR invoice. I'm going to do, again, the same item we're going to sell. Again, we had no restriction on item. We're just doing it by that. So we're going to do $500 here. Okay, we're going to add this. Let's go back. So here we have Norm, and if we look at the effect of accounting, you can see here that we hit the 412, the sales revenue foreign, right, because we met the criteria. So if it's a large account, we did sales revenue foreign, right? If we go back one, this was the invoice for Earthshaker. You can see here how this one hit the domestic account, and this one hit the foreign account. So now let's do one that's not part of the criteria. So let's just add another one. So we're going to choose somebody. Okay. So let's just see. We don't want a construction and we don't want a large account. Let's just pull anybody. So let's get one here. Here's a distributor. Let's just take a distributor. So distributor is not in our rule. So we should now, when we post a distributor, we should, we have a exchange rate on this is a foreign currency customer, but that's okay. Still works. You can see here that's a euro customer. I just set the rate. So we now have the same thing. So this is out of the rule. So what's going to happen is when we sell, now we're going to use the default. Remember, the default was the revenue service account. And let's just sell this in euros. Okay, let's go back and look at that. So we look at our accounting. We look at our AR invoice. You can see here that we hit the 413, the sales revenue. So again, you can see here that this one was not the rule. This was not a large client. It was not a large or construction BP group. It was anything else. So again, it used the standard one. So you can see sales revenue service. If we look at the one before that, you can see how this hit sales revenue foreign. And the invoice before that was sales revenue domestic. So again, very nice functionality, very good. This solves a lot of the issues a lot of our clients are having because that was always an issue. They want to do things based on the customer. They want to say, you know what, well, I need it, again. And you can see that was the reason why I showed that demo because that was probably our biggest one because what happens is in the business partner master data, there was a change made in the 8.8 versions that allowed me to have the multiple and change my control accounts. So remember, the way SAP works, for example, for accounts receivable, if I look at the accounting, I had this account. So I can create for my receivables and my deposits, I could enter that account. But I really couldn't do it anywhere else. So now what I do is I have a lot of functionality. Again, so I can do it in many different ways. So if we go back here to administration, setup, financials, GL account determination, and the criteria, again, you can see all that criteria. So again, so we can do it based on the federal tax ID here. We can do it, which is really nice, the ship to country and state. This is sometimes for tax purposes. So again, I can go here. So my ship to countries and states in here. I can do a BP code, and I can even do a BP type. In this example, I would have probably used a BP type here. For again, I could do a BP type, which is up here. So I can say, you know what, I want all my vendors or customers. This is the BP type. I can do it in here. And again, I can do the tax code, which is down here. And I can do the ship to country and ship to state, which is in here too. So again, a lot of nice flexibility in the system, very easy to work with, and again, it gives you that again, you can create these rules as advanced as you want. Okay, so let's kind of recap what we did real quick. We're talking about an SAP Business One version 9.0, the new functionality called Advanced GL Account Determination. Again, this is an option you can turn on. You don't have to use it, but you can use it. And what you do is you turn it on, you go to Administration, System Initialization, and you would go under the Company Details, the Basic Initialization, you have it here. Okay, and when you turn it on, what it'll do, it'll prompt you, a little box will come up, and it'll give you a couple defaults. We just choose the main default, which is going to create a rule for all the for the conversion. What that's going to do is, remember, in the standard, when this is not turned on, you have the GL accounts. Let's go back and look at that. You have the GL accounts when it's not turned on at the item group level and the warehouse level. That's why you saw those three things, those advanced settings. So you could have, on your current version, you could have different GL accounts here, okay, by items or by warehouse. So what it's going to do, it's going to create that rule to take into effect any of these differences. Now, when we turn Advanced on, you no longer have the GL accounts on the item groups. You no longer have the GL accounts on the warehouses, and you no longer have them in the items. They're all put into the main GL account determination under financials, again, to make it easier to work with, easier to maintain. And then you would just create rules. Okay, so let's go back to SAP. So again, that's when it's turned on. Once it's turned on, you can notice, again, if you go into your setup, and I go into inventory, and I go to item groups, I no longer have that tab here. So again, you just don't have this tab. All right. You can see the same with warehouses. You no longer have the tab for the accounts. All right. You can see it's gone, and that's all part of the rules. So now everything is centralized in one easy place to work with. So if we go into Setup, Financials, under the GL account determination, you have an extra field here. So you have the determination criteria. The determination criteria allows you to determine how you want to set this up. And again, out of the box, the item group, item code, and warehouse are active and grayed out. You can't change those because, again, that's the functionality that existed in the current SAP. You can see that on the item master. So if we look at an item, again, there's some new, you can see that was the standard functionality, which was here. That's why it's there. And now you have under the general, when you activate the advanced rules, under the general, you're going to have these advanced rules. The same thing, you have the item group, the warehouse, and just general. So you can set that up here. So general is just going to use, the fields, or you can also do it here. And again, this was the standard item level. That's why this one, the warehouse, item group, and item level are automatically hard-coded here. Item group, item level, item code, and warehouse. You have that set. Then what we do is under our setup, financials, GL account determination, now we have under the GL account determination a new column called advanced rules. So you can do it in here. And again, you can do it you have it for the sales. You can see here that there's 5 rules under that expense account. Okay, you can do it under the general and the inventory. So you can see here I have rules, and these rules have been created. If you notice, if I click here, these rules are created because, again, since I access these accounts, that's why the rules are there. So for example, here's the allocation account. What I'm leaving here is blank, so there's no rule. But if I was to go into the allocation account, even if I use the same account, which I'm just going to go ahead and use that one here, let's say this one here. And again, it's always, I'm getting this warning, and this warning is true in any of the GL account determination tables. It's just letting me know that I really shouldn't be changing this kind of midstream. I mean, I can, but then I could have some issues because going forward, I'm going to be posting the new accounts. So sometimes it creates an issue when people are looking at their financials for the whole month because I'm doing this in the middle of the month. if you want to do this kind of stuff, it's always recommended to do kind of a cutoff. Wait till the beginning of a new period to do that. So again, I'm just going to click that. So now you can see I added the allocation account. So when I come back in here, you should have it here in the allocation. So you can see there's two rules, 1 and 2. Just update, click OK. Let's just go out, come back in. And you can see now, I have that rule. So that's how these get populated. These get populated based on just setting up those GL accounts in the rule. So now I could, again, so I can create rules for all these accounts. If I want to create a sales return account for foreign and domestic, goods clearing account, foreign domestic, I can do whatever I want here, and you can see the rules. And these carry through, again, on anything on the GL account determination table, you can do that. You can have exchange rate differences, again, if you're dealing with foreign currencies, and so on. So you can see here those two rules. And again, if you look at the rule, again, it's kind of easy to set up. You would just create a code. In this case, I have RD, revenue domestic, RF, revenue foreign. But again, you can put whatever code you want. Here's the type. Again, this type is linked to the that new field that's in the item. So you can actually have these types. And again, my priorities here, you'll notice, is I have business partner group first, then item group, then item code routes. And this is going to follow the hierarchy here. And again, we saw this by highlighting and moving up and down how we want to set this up. So again here, so I have, again, these large accounts, which is my domestic accounts. And again, I can actually do the item group since it's in my hierarchy. I can do my item, I can do all, and I can do these selections too. So again, I have a lot of flexibility here of how I want to set this up. And then once it's set up, you can see how it works. And again, there are authorizations for this, just like there's authorizations for the GL account determinations in prior versions. So you can set that up. It's also in the change log. So if you go here, let me see if I have it turned on. Again, if I look at my change log here, I don't have it turned on, that one. And again, you can see the change log is active. Okay, so I can see any changes I did here. And again, real simple. You saw that example. Again, if we look here, let's go into our AR invoice. So if we look here, remember we did this one, this customer, ADA. You can see ADA was a distributor, so he was not a large account. He wasn't a construction account, so it's going to use the default. Okay, we saw that the default GL account for revenue was revenue service, and you can see that here. Revenue service is what it used. You can see here that if I go to this one, this was norm, and you can see that norm was a construction, and construction was our foreign. So if we look here, the effect in general ledger, it used the sales revenue foreign instead of the default service. And then we had Earthshaker, which was a large account. And again, we can see here Earthshaker was a large account under the groups. And this, when I look at my posting routine, it's going to be sales revenue domestic. So again, really nice functionality. I love it because I've had so many clients tell me that. Why can't I do that? Why can't I break this down? Why am I limited to just the one account? Why am I limited? So now all that functionality is there. Very, very nice is what they did. Very good. So now I can really get some nice detail in my financials. So I can break this down very well, and I can see all my information here and, again, analyze it. What we used to do in the past for things like this is, and I had clients who actually, and I did this for a client, is that we would have to create a query. So we'd create a query that we can pull the information out, and then what they would have to do at the end of the month, they would say, okay, well, all my revenue went to this one revenue account, and then based on the query, they would have to go in and do a journal entry into the month to redistribute everything out. I don't have to do that anymore. Everything is in the system. Again, very nice, very neat, very simple to work with. Okay, that concludes our webinar today. I apologize for the delay in the beginning, little problem with the demo, but that concludes our webinar. Remember, this is being recorded. It'll be available on our website, so you can visit us at www.mitchellgroup.com. to view this plus the others in our training series. And once again, we thank you for your time.